Why, good morning. I am Susan Shareko, and I'd like to welcome you to this version of Train Your Brain, Claim Your Power. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to prepare to handle what life throws your way so you can pursue your dreams and enjoy life along the way. I had originally intended to, I'm trying to find out how to go full screen right now. And it's very funny because I don't know how to do it. So, all right, you'll see me in the tiny little box up here in the corner. And until I stop sharing, I suppose I could stop sharing right this minute and you would see me. Ta-da, here I am. Okay. I'm here to share with you today some thoughts about preparing for life. As you know, Train Your Brain, Claim Your Power is a program designed to help you handle whatever life throws your way. It's designed to help you pursue your dreams. And since those are two extremes of a pendulum, I'd also like you to be able to enjoy life along the way. When I originally started to prepare for this call, I was thinking in terms of a garden and how when we set out to prepare a garden, we don't just have it pop up out of the air. We have to make plans for it. We have to decide what we want to have in it. And that's a process. And along that way, you find out that part of the reason you can't do it is the weather isn't right. Your tiny little plants will freeze if you put them in the ground too soon. Or the rains in March will come along and they will absolutely wipe out what you've planted. Just wash it away. But, wise people have cautioned us not to plant too early. And that's why we do a whole preparation stage of tilling the ground and picking the plants ahead of time and ordering seeds that have a chance of surviving in our environment. So that's what I call powering up. Planning, preventing bugs, some sort of organic treatment that you put on the ground to cut down on the bugs, preparing the soil, and building good habits and routines that enable you to actually grow the garden. So watering, weeding, those kind of things are all part of the process of having a good garden. Well, I find it interesting that we are now in a place where we have to prepare. The world itself is requiring that we do it. And we may not have all the information we need to know. We don't know what's going to happen. All of us feel very insecure in this lack of information that's available to us. And then we tend to anticipate what the possibilities are. And that puts a great many of us into fear mode. So I'd like to take a look at some life hacks that we can all use to maintain a positive attitude and approach to the circumstances in which we now find ourselves. When we take I'm going to turn the screen on right here to share a little bit of a presentation here so that you can see it and go along with me. Let's start with maybe taking a mindful moment. And I'd like you to, as long as you're not driving, would you go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Take another breath and release. And take one more deep breath. Think of a word to hold in your mind. And repeat this word to yourself. And then return to your natural breathing pattern. Thank you. Everything begins with a thought. And how you think determines your results. And guess what? This is not the presentation that I wanted to do today. This is the one from last week. Isn't that terrible? All right, let me kill this one. And I'm going to go find. Okay, that was stopped. Now I'm going to share again. But this time I'm going to look for See, this is the funny part about these meetings. And those of you who don't know, will find out soon enough. I'm going to exit full screen here so that I can get back. Oh my, okay. All right, let's see. What can I do? There we go. I'm going to find my program. This is a miracle of computers that we can do this. We've taken all that mindful breathing and we're feeling ready to get going, and then there's a technical difficulty. I want PowerPoint 3. Wow, isn't this interesting? Let's say, aha, there we go. That's the one we want. Yay! I will now go back to show. I'm going to minimize this for a minute. Pop this up front. Look at this so that you can look at this. I want to exit full screen and just be here on the side. I'm going to share what I have here. Okay, now I'm where I want to be. Yay! Okay. I find it fascinating to do this. When we take a proactive approach to life, we don't get stopped down by all the worries about the situation in which we are seeking to achieve our goals. Instead, we examine how to prevent problems and remove the things that get in our way. We prepare for what is likely or possible, envision what we would prefer to experience, prehabilitate, not rehabilitate, but prehabilitate if we have some certainty of a likely event. And what that means is we practice the skills that we need so that we're building good habits we can draw upon to support our vision of a preferred result. And then we put a plan in place, which is our roadmap to follow on autopilot. It's better to be on autopilot at all times because it just works better. You don't have to think it through all the time. So when we take these steps, I call that powering up. And that, is the premise of this program, that we train our mind, we train our brain so that you can claim your personal power and optimize your life in the process. The reason I say that is because everything begins with a thought, and how you think determines your results. You create what you want, starting with the thoughts you have and the words you speak. You have within you the power to handle whatever life throws your way. You can achieve the lifestyle of your dreams, and you can enjoy everyday life in the process. That is the program. So we're going to start by recognizing the 6 pillars that sustain a well-lived life: our mindset, health, finances, resilience, preparedness, and then relationships and our community involvement, because they're all intertwined. And you really can't focus just on one without the others falling off course. So we have techniques we can use in the pursuit of a goal, any goal. I mean, maybe you're looking for a successful retirement, or you want to improve your health, or you want to improve your relationships. You want to make a difference in your community. You've always wanted to make a difference and leave a legacy. Or you discovered a cure to a major illness, or you're getting the education you want in order to pursue a specific career. You're changing careers. There are so many ways that we are always dreaming of doing something or being something more. And we also have to be prepared to handle these unexpected adversities. And that's ultimately practical as something you can do to improve your life. I I can't begin to emphasize how important your mindset is in these situations. When you're facing unknowns, you feel insecure, and that triggers negative and fearful thinking. And you think and do strange things that seem out of character. The what ifs in your mind start to run wild, and they're filled with downturns, feelings of loss or fear that something is going to happen to you or your family, and what could those things be? Now, I know what that's like. I know that feeling because after we had our landslide several years ago, I was a fearful person. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to expect. And I was afraid most of the time. Waking up in the middle of the night, I was having a terrible time sleeping. I would wind up watching those infomercials in the wee hours. I was constantly researching something that would remove the fear, and was discovering that sudden, unexpected adversity affects us physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So, because my dad was a psychologist and I enjoyed dabbling in it myself, I realized that I felt that it would be easy to go into a deep depression. And so I asked a friend at church, she's a psychologist, when could I expect to get depressed? When would it hit? And she told me it could come at any time. It might come today, or it may come down the road years, and suddenly it would rear its ugly head and be present in my life. But she made a suggestion that if I didn't want to wind up on medication and was concerned about it, then I should think there was something in a daily routine that promotes good physical and mental health. It also improves the things we've just been talking about, resilience and relationships and your sense of community. But these are the 7 things that she told me. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep daily. Do some form of exercise like walking for 30 minutes daily. Prepare healthy meals as if you're cooking for somebody special. Drink plenty of water so that you stay hydrated. Be in beauty. Take walks. Listen to music or meditate. Start to journal. Talk with someone you can confide in. Laugh every day. Watch or read 30 minutes of comedy, and there's certainly plenty of comedy on the air, and learn something new. Of course, I added a few over the years because I discovered that I felt there were other things that also helped to maintain this daily routine that picked you up. Take 15 minutes to clear the clutter in your surroundings so that you can make room for the good that's coming. Disconnect from the media and your devices. They can lead you into a negative tailspin that you have to overcome over and over and over again every time you turn them on. This is especially true right now. The airwaves are filled with concerns, and we are watching it to our own detriment. It's okay to stay informed, but when you start watching it constantly, you really can do yourself a disservice. Be of service. Helping others is one of the best ways to get us out of our own misery. I find that so true, that if you're really hung up on yourself, do something for somebody else and you forget about yourself quite a bit. So if you're being drawn into fearful, negative, and depressed thinking, start this new routine. Not only is it provides structure, and structure gives us a sense of security. And so just make a little checklist every day and check them off as you accomplish those tasks during your day. And this is also where, excuse me, our previous power calls can be a benefit. Excuse me. We've been focused on identifying what we want and looking at how our family and emotional support helps us in achieving our goals. I'd like you to bring those goals to your mind again. Your purpose and sense of a very big why. Hang on just a second. Your very big why and your purpose is what you're going to focus on now. And my intention for this call is to examine how we can claim our power to keep on a positive track as we hold on to our vision of what we want. Now, as we come into the call, we were ready to prepare to take action. We're going to develop an action plan that would help us achieve our vision. And somehow, in the course of the 3 weeks or 4 weeks since we had our last call, something happened that we feel that we have very little power to change or control what's going on around us. I think I first heard these words from Dr. Dyer, Wayne Dyer. Flip your thinking. When you change the things you think about, the things you think of change. And that's also part of Noah St. John's affirmations. It's part of the power of positive self-talk. And it's one of the most powerful life hacks I've ever found. Think positive thoughts. Train yourself to think positive thoughts and get away from the negativity you're being pulled toward. As a matter of survival, we're hardwired to anticipate danger. Our default thinking can be negative, warning us on several levels of things that are not even a threat anymore. But we're always watching. We're ever vigilant. We're looking for trouble unless we practice techniques that move us in this more positive direction. So, as Joyce Myers would say, it's a battlefield of the mind, and we have to. So what we can do is choose a life hack or two that we can put on our armor and stay focused on staying positive. Now here they are. These are the 3 of them on the sheet. Develop an attitude of gratitude and practice coming up with 10 things for which you're grateful, even if it's only the weather. Use affirmations regularly at the start of the day or whenever you think of it. Now, affirmations are positive statements that we create in order to achieve something we want. I'm happy. I'm wealthy. Everything is going to be okay. Money is pouring into my life in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a regular basis. I embrace prosperity and all the positive energies it brings with it. I appreciate my relationships. I appreciate where I am and what I am becoming. All things are possible at love and above. Those are all affirmations that you can write many of your own. They will come as you journal, as I do suggest you start to journal. As you journal, you will become aware of thoughts that you want to affirm, and you write them down and use them over and over and over again. You can also use affirmations. Those are positive why questions that were developed as a concept when Noah St. John had an epiphany one day. And it came out of the fact that he realized we ask ourselves questions all the time. Unfortunately, we frequently ask ourselves negative questions like, why am I so stupid? Or why am I such an idiot? Or why can't I ever get this right? The subconscious mind doesn't judge what we say or ask. As we ask a question, it becomes a giant search engine and searches the quantum mainframe of consciousness for an answer in exactly the same way we propose it. So a negative question is supported with a negative answer. That's why we ask positive why questions. Why do we have to ask ourselves questions? Because for 20% of all people, when they use affirmations, they feel as if they're lying to themselves. When I first started this work, I was one of those people. I would use an affirmation like, I am rich. And I would get this terrible feeling, a pit in my stomach, that I was lying. I knew the affirmation wasn't true yet. Maybe in the future, but not then. But when you add a why, when you ask why, the mind goes searching out again, and this time it brings back answers that are truly amazing. You can also practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is when you focus on one thing and observe it for at least a minute. It's very similar to the practice of centered prayer. You may ask a question or read an inspirational passage before you start, and then sit in a comfortable room as you empty your mind. Pick a word, any word, like mother, father, Abba, God, peace, love, a word that means something to you. And empty your mind of all other thoughts. They'll come, thoughts will come. They'll float across your mind, and we're so in the habit of grabbing them when they pass by. But when you're practicing centered prayer, you let them float by like leaves upon a river. And you don't engage with them, you just observe them and go back to your word. Mother, Father, love, peace, peace. You just repeat it, peace. And as you do, it puts you in a meditative state. You stay there for probably 20 minutes. And then note any guidance that you receive while you're doing that, because not only do thoughts just float by, sometimes suggestions at the same time. You do get into the right mindset. And when you do, it becomes easier to, it becomes easier for us to focus and apply our thinking to address whatever is in our way right now. And for us at this time, it's this health crisis that the whole country is currently focusing on. Infectious diseases, a new infectious disease. With today's communication systems, when a threat is identified within the health system, an alert goes out that activates an incredible machine. And within minutes, we know that the threat of the flu, the measles, a virus, or some other disease exists. And then we begin to examine that threat from multiple directions. How do we prevent this from happening to us? To me, myself, to my family, to my community? What can we do to prepare in case it does happen? What would we prefer to have happen? What's in the way? And what can we do about it? What's our plan? What's our roadmap to move forward? What's one thing we can do right now to start following this roadmap and put this negative thing behind us? So I'm going to look at each of these in turn. How do we prevent this from happening to us? There's an old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I want to attribute it to Benjamin Franklin. I don't know if it really is, but that's what's going through my head at the moment. So we start by staying calm. and we don't let fear and our mind trash, start making us crazy. If you find that you're falling into a negative mind spin, settle down and start using those mental tools I mentioned just a minute ago. Your affirmations, your formations, meditation, centered prayer, flipping your thinking. Start using those to keep you positive and keep you calm. Start asking what you would prefer instead of the outcome you're so afraid of. Start asking why your preference is received for you. Start asking why you're so calm. Why is everything going to be all right? Why do I know the right actions to take? Another thing we can do. The recommendations that are being given to us are not as extreme as disaster preparedness, because electricity and water are not disrupted by an illness. Yet people are terrified and they're picking up cases and cases of water. This is not a disaster. It's not a natural disaster. Most of us need to do nothing more than stay home and distance ourselves socially for a couple of weeks. A small percentage will need to be hospitalized if they come in contact with this virus and are infected. There are recommended preparations that you can do in your regular shopping by buying your regular list with a couple of doubles. That's all it takes. We're talking about a 2-week period. It would be unusual for it to go to 3 or 4 without being able to get out to the store. So if we weren't so blasé about the flu, because the flu kills thousands every year and we don't even pay attention to go get our flu shots. If we paid attention, if we weren't so blasé, we would already make these prevention techniques part of our everyday routine. We would have it. We'd have it down, and this would not panic us so much. So what's one way? Pay attention to what you do with your hands. When there is a breakout of infectious diseases, like the flu, and in this case, the coronavirus is not the flu, it is different, don't shake hands or hug. Funny things, people were doing elbow bumps for a while, and I said, no, don't do the elbow bump because we tell you to cough into your elbows. So the Roman salute against the heart or a toe tap was another thing they recommended. Wash your hands frequently for 10 to 20 seconds. That's equivalent to singing the happy birthday song twice. Get home a hand sanitizer or soap and water in your bathrooms so that when you're home or as you get into your car or as you go into your office or into the restroom, coming out of the restroom, you can sanitize your hands. Cough or sneeze into disposable tissues and discard them. They really don't want you to cough into your elbow, but we've trained our kids to do it now, so it's very hard to untrain ourselves from that cough. But better to cough or sneeze with a disposable tissue. Don't touch your face. Infections enter through your mouth or your nose, and our hands can pick up infectious droplets from any number of surfaces unless we're washing them, sanitizing them regularly. And so once they're on our hands, we transmit them easily through our nose and our mouth. There was a story I heard yesterday, which I thought was just brilliant. A woman who works with kindergartners, with young kids. There's a lot of, popsicle sticks, and she would carry the popsicle stick with her. And when she felt an itch or, how you want to touch your face for some reason, she'd touch her face with a popsicle stick, reminding her, oh, I'm not supposed to be touching my face. But then she hadn't carry the infection into her own body, and she would then throw away the popsicle stick. It's a way, might work for her, might work for you, but I thought it was interesting. Pay attention to the surfaces that lots of people touch every day. Use your knuckles to touch light switches, elevator buttons. Use your closed fists or your hip to open doors when possible. And if you have access to paper towels when you're opening a doorknob, use that. Perhaps have paper towels available so when you go to hold the gasoline dispenser when you're fueling up your car. Put sanitizers outside the bathroom door so you can use it when you're exiting. That's when you don't want to have picked up something. You washed your hands at the sink, you touch that doorknob, you pick up more germs and you go outside. Well, that's where you want to have that sanitizer. And wipe surfaces frequently with disinfectant wipes when other people frequently use a given area. That is probably one of the biggest recommendations that they make. Drink water, stay hydrated, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, and wash the surfaces that you're doing things on. Oh, look at that. Click to add title. I didn't put a title on. Continued. I should make it just continued. Get your vaccinations. Flu shot exists. Now, it isn't the flu, and this shot doesn't handle the flu, so that, that's not what it's there for. But what it does do is help you build up the ability to not be affected by some of the side effects, so that you don't, I think there's some pneumonia protections in a flu shot. It's a different pneumonia you get with the coronavirus, so it may not be as valuable, but still it is there to be of assistance. Stay hydrated, as I said before. Many germs are eliminated when they're passed into the intestine. The acids in the intestine kill them. They pass through. They don't stick around and make you sick. To help others, please don't go to work if you're sick. This helps you as well, because your own immune system is depressed when you're and compromised if you're going around sick. And even though it may not be this terrible virus that we're trying to figure out, it is something that makes your own immune system weakened so that you are more susceptible to it if you should come into contact with it. Be extra watchful in large crowds. I think, what are they saying now? Don't come any closer than 6 feet to people who are, in a group, and limit your groups. The number keeps coming down. For a while, in California, we are now not to get groups bigger than 250 people, and concerts began to be, canceled. Sporting games and a lot of television shows went out of production. Audiences were canceled because there were too many people in the groups. We are now down to about 50 people to stay in small groups and keep your distance. And then stay up to date on government advisories. That's when it's okay to tune into your devices and watch TV to see what is the latest and greatest information out there. What have we discovered? Anything new about what we should do and can do, where we can go? It is now, it's okay to listen to find out what those advisories are. So please don't stop doing that. I think there was did we want to do anything before these outbreaks to improve our resistance to these alien agents that are coming in? And I said, yes, we can develop the habit and the practice of taking better care of ourselves. That would require changing some habits. And so we need to identify the habits that don't serve us as well and replace them with power habits and power routines. Power habits enable you to work on autopilot. You don't have to labor to reinvent the wheel every day. They become a routine, and routines lead to systems, systems lead to productivity and momentum. These activities help you to manage stress. You check your blood pressure, you engage with your community, you give up smoking and alcohol, and you keep a positive attitude. These activities can also be part of a lifestyle that builds a good immune system into your body and helps you develop resilience. So even if you are exposed, you can fight back and avoid serious illness. Implementing preventive techniques helps you feel a little bit more control over the situation, and that brings you a better sense of security. So what can we do if something happens? What will happen to us? And I think when we began to prepare for our show, we did shut down now. We are on, I call it suspension, 2-week suspension. And they outlined 3 levels of preparedness for this situation. The first one is green. You go about your regular life, but what you do is think through the what if scenarios and come up with contingency plans. I think that's the contingency plans. You know, that's when you ask yourself what if questions, and then you know, you talk about things like we were talking about. Do we need extra personnel? Do we have enough personnel to cover ourselves? What if they become ill? Our staff, who's going to fill their positions? Under what situations would we not be here? And so that's when we went to the yellow level. Yellow level is really when businesses begin to make decisions about who to bring into the office and who not to. Are we going to work with a skeleton crew? Are we going to send our staff home to work from home and communicate the way we're communicating right now on Zoom? Have your meetings. Learned about an adjunct to Zoom, which is something called the meeting owl. And the meeting owl actually pays attention to who's in the room, and you can notice everybody and picks up your responses to things. It's a delightful gadget, and very, very helpful, and it really livens up the meetings that we have. So doing this work from home, this going to school, look how many schools have closed. Whole districts are closed, and all the children and their teachers are going online and doing their classrooms over the internet in meeting rooms like this. It's a phenomenal development. I think it may become more the norm after this period of time. Eventually, you have to come up with a what if scenario if we go to red. And red is when you literally, the government is asking businesses to shut down, except for essential services. And I think that's what's been happening in the background for a couple of weeks now. The government has been asking. They've been suggesting that people shut down. They've been suggesting that the sporting groups not hold games, because that's endangers everybody at the game. And when it came to the fact that somebody actually did get the coronavirus during at a sporting event, then they have to be, you know, it suddenly made it important, and everyone began to shut down. Schools, somebody, you know, was discovered to be sick in a school, and they have to evacuate, and now everyone is shutting down. They're not taking any chances. You're going home to work from home. So for us, you need to be asking yourself, what would you do if something like this disrupts your business routines? What if the schools close for a week or two? What do your workers use for childcare? What if there are bad road situations or road closures that you have to get around in order to do your work? So there's the question of how do you get to work? Can you get to work? Who can get to work? What do you need to do? What if you are on the other side, you're not running a business, but you are an employee, and suddenly at your job, you're being told that they're shutting down. They're disrupting their business for a while. Do you experience any financial interruption, and how does it impact you? Are you prepared for that? That was something very real for us after the landslide. We had to get used to the fact that our financial world was in complete disarray, and we were not prepared for it. We had not. I was not a preparedness freak by any means, so that it really was. We were fortunate that we did have savings that helped carry us through over a year, where we had double our expenses. We had to carry the property that we couldn't live on anymore, as well as pay new rent to the place where we were living, and so that was literally double the expense, and we struggled to deal with that. As a result, once I finally, when I came into a more steady position, I made automatic savings part of my paycheck. I don't ever see it. It goes right in my savings account, and it accumulates, and every once in a while I take a look at it, and it's like, wow, look at that. That's just been happening in the background, and it adds up. It really does add up over time. So that's one of my power habits, is automatic savings out of my checking account. What if you are working from home? I mean, it sounds like fun when you're anticipating it, but are you set up to do it? How will you communicate with others? Are you on the phone? Are you on the computer? How does that work? Are you going to be able to telecommute from home to your workplace? If you're doing that, is your internet connection fast enough? Are you able to, is it secure enough to be able to handle your workload? Can you get in? Do you have the right passwords? Do you have secure VPN connections? It's a good time to check out your systems and see if they work, and see that you have the supplies you need at home, along with other items that you're putting on your preparedness list to go out and buy. If you do get sick, notice I put in here, do you have 14 days of food on hand? I'm just looking ahead, it's okay, I'm losing my place, excuse me. If you get sick, that's one of the considerations you need, which is you want to notify your doctor, or you want to notify your hospital to tell them your symptoms. I know what they've just announced is there is going to be a website you can go to, and you put in your symptoms and you talk to someone and they tell you, or you just follow the instruction box, and it tells you whether you need to go get a test or not. And then it tells you where those test stations are set up. It's probably not operative yet, but quickly they will be operative, and you will be able to know if you have to stay home. And at that point, they will be able to give you instructions, because they don't want you to just show up at the hospital. They don't want they want your doctor to have some input into whether you need to go or if you just have a bad bug. It's okay. They're different bugs, and the doctors are the ones who can tell us that. So the next question, and the one that's probably most disruptive to people, is that if you do have to go home and quarantine, self-quarantine, or I have to say, working from home, coming home to work from home, I feel as if I'm self-quarantining. It's an odd feeling, because I shopped as if I was self-quarantining. But that's the point. Do you have 14 days of food on hand? Do you have a 3-month supply of your prescription medications and your usual emergency kit? When we do disaster talks, and the things that you need to have in your kit, last fall, when we had all those public safety power outages, I was talking about what you need to have to replace electricity and power, because it's so interwoven with our lives. So I was talking about these things all the time: your first aid kit, your flashlight, a space blanket to stay warm, external batteries for your cell phone and your computer, and the right clothes to you know, pack up, put in a bag, and get out if you need to. Extra pet food, extra people food, things for the family members who might be sick that you need to take with you. These are all real, those are very real things that you have to have, whatever your disaster is. However, there is another level of focus when you're talking about what they're recommending you have at home now. And that's what's different, is that they're talking about more medically oriented supplies to help you feel better and sanitize your space. So they're suggesting you have paper towels and disinfectant or Clorox wipes, hand soap, tissues. They mentioned sanitizers that need to be at least 60% alcohol. They're very useful. Zinc lozenges have been, like Coldies, are something that helps build your immune system, and so some people recommend them. I actually saw a list of about 20 things that are natural alternatives for building your immune system. I wasn't familiar with them, so I didn't include them here because I think you can do your own research on that. But there are some faulty, misinformation about odd things, that, new products, and somewhat that they say, oh, this is the cure. No one knows the cure yet. So it is something to you build up your immune system. Do what you do naturally to build up your immune system, and in your natural diet, and that will be the best you could do. If someone is sick in your home or if you're in public facilities frequently, you might want to wear disposable gloves for certain things, especially if if you're someone who has to take trash out a great deal, then all that trash from all those people throwing all those tissues is in those bags that you're removing. And that's a time when disposable gloves would probably be a very good idea. So think through what your tasks are and where you're coming in contact with people with these items. If you are sick, you want to be more comfortable. You want to make sure your medicine cabinet holds cold and flu medications, because those are like Dayquil and NyQuil and anti-inflammatory drugs and acetaminophen and antiviral perhaps, and a way to take your temperature so you can answer your doctor's questions if you have to call in. I think you should make sure you have some things to pass the time. You'll want to have a supply of, your TV, movies, books, games, and hobbies that you've been wanting to pursue and watch. This is the time. If you must stay home, there are many things you can do to fill your time. I would probably be writing. That's the time I would take to write. And if you want to accept a challenge, just to make it more fun, since you're going to be in this world, you might make this an opportunity to make your home a retreat center, so that you can come in and have the Zen type music and a quiet place, and you can do your meditations, and you can do physical activity, have a little mini gym set up for stretching and yoga. You can shop for very high quality food with lots and lots of fruits and vegetables, and prepare lovely meals with candles and aromatic blends that help you heal as well. You could make it a beautiful experience instead of worrying about all the negative things that are going on around you. Now that you have a contingency plan, and I've given you those lists of things that you might want to have on hand, don't get crazy, but it's time to go out and stock up for what you need. You don't have to take everything in the store, just what you need for a couple of weeks. And doing that will make you feel better. It is true that action makes us feel better. And I think in some way because it gives us control over the situation. None of us want to be confined. None of us want to be disrupted. We don't want to have financial threats in our lives or health threatens our lives. We don't want to be in a negative tailspin. We don't want to have to protect our families and our communities from danger. We like our lives. We've created the lives we love. And so I think part of what I also feel is important is that you start to ask yourself, what would you prefer? That's in the true spirit of manifestation. You know, I doubt very much that a situation in which you find yourself worrying about whether you're going to have to self-quarantine or not see friends or not do anything is exactly high on your list. So start thinking about what you would prefer. Go back into realizing that life does have a way of throwing us curveballs, and we deal with the cards we're dealt. Start the creative process over again. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? What do you have to do to get there under the present circumstances? What's getting in the way? And how do we adjust? What can we do about it? The work we've done before is still important. It's the path to get there that may need some adjusting right now. I think that's the hard part. We lock into our vision of what is the way we're going to do something, and that's not the way life is. It throws us in different directions. We keep that vision in the back of our mind, and we keep moving toward it every day. And when something throws us off, we open to what the new experience is, and we find the new path keeps us moving toward what we say we want. I think that's really that's an important thing. I want to spend a minute looking at remember when what I was saying when I started this this preparation for this class or this call, I was thinking about the creative process when you start a garden, and that was the symbolism there is very helpful. So I want to start by just thinking about your perfect garden. If you had an opportunity to have a garden in your life, envision what it would look like, and you draw it in a journal or on a piece of paper, but it is something that really, you just want to think about it. And in my vision of my garden, there are beautiful flowers and trees, and the birds play there. And when I sit out in the early morning, I can have my journal and I'm writing, and the birds are flitting in the trees around the garden. But it doesn't always work that way. Something happens and you don't get to enjoy that garden. So in my case, over the past few years, we've been in a drought. And the earth is very hard and dry, and we have a very limited water supply. So it's been hard to grow anything in this garden. The edges have started to fall apart because nobody's out there working in it. There are weeds and even grasses growing in the main beds of the garden. We have a lot of rabbits in the area, and they're eating the young growing plants that I might put into anything. We also used to have gophers, and they return and eat everything from the roots up. So I always say with my schedule, I don't have the time to take care of the garden. So, and I don't know enough. And all of a sudden, all these negative thoughts are coming into my mind about why I can't keep the garden up. So we learn a lot from this list of problems about me and my gardening. We're now able to see what's getting in the way of our vision. And it's pretty clear what I need to do if I'm going to optimize my garden. I'm going to need a proper water source so that it will automatically water at my plants. It will need to be weeded. Somebody's going to have to put the edge around the garden and maybe put some proper protection in it to keep the rabbits from eating anything that's in there. The soil may need to be aerated, loosened, and fertilized. And my reality is that unless I want to do that work, I'm going to need to find a master gardener who will do that work for me. And then the real priority for me is sitting in the beautiful garden that I love. And it isn't the work as much as it is the beauty that I want to sit in. And so there, it's worth it to me to pay a gardener to come and do that work so that I can enjoy it. So I can go through the preparation. We know now that whatever my belief is, it's that I don't have enough time. It's that I haven't made it the priority to make the time, because we always can get the right time. Why don't we do the work that's required to build and maintain the optimized garden? What's stopping us from doing that? What do we tell ourselves? Why don't we optimize? And the key thing here for you is to ask yourself, does it serve your purpose? Why don't we prepare to deal with this situation, the coronavirus situation? Why don't we have an answer or a solution to finding a cure or finding a vaccine that will prevent it? Because in the beginning, it wasn't our primary purpose. We weren't focused on it. It wasn't a priority. In fact, we didn't even know it existed. But as soon as we did, look how quickly we've turned our attention to it. It is now our primary purpose to save our lives. Always come back to your purpose. If something, if this right now, this is an interruption to our purpose. Some people make it their life work as a result of discovering this, but for the majority of people, we will focus on it while it's a problem, and then we will let it go. And we will go back to what really is our purpose. And that's where we want to connect to our primary purpose, make it a priority, reword it, put the why behind it. Is there a way that you can visualize your garden, visualize a cure, visualize your dream, and make it so? Looking at what we have, seeing what we need, meeting with a master gardener, gaining clarity on what the garden means to us, are all ways of letting the universe know that we are serious about wanting our garden, our cure, and our dream. These are the first steps in asking the universal quantum consciousness for solutions, for the answers that will make a difference in our lives. Now, I think about did I just skip that? I think I did. Yeah. I've written here about something that Amit Goswami wrote. He is a quantum physicist he calls himself a quantum activist now. And he explains the process of quantum creation in his works. When you build a case for what you desire, you may not know how to bring it about. And so there is a creative process that we put into work. You gather as much information as you possibly can, ask a question, and then wait for an answer to come out of all the information you have gathered. Point here is you let go. You go for a walk or a run. You take a nap. You do something entirely unrelated. Maybe you do the dishes. But you go away from your problem and you wait. And in terms of quantum creativity, we say you let go and allow your subconscious, your non-conscious mind, to link to the field of all possibilities. imagination, intuition, quantum consciousness. And out of nowhere, your conscious mind experiences this drop-down aha moment coming out of nowhere. When we take it in, we rush to apply whatever the action, whatever the message, and then watch the results. The answers will come. You want to be open to receive and act as soon as possible. That's the process. When you get all of this in order, the vision, the why, the ideas and prioritizing, the asking and the answers, your preparation will yield the results. You'll create the plan. You'll have a sense of the next steps, and you'll be ready to move into action. It doesn't mean that everything will happen overnight. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it will, and you know, overnight miracles are wonders, are just, we love hearing about them, but it's often the case that when you start to see movement, it will be small but positive steps towards solutions that bring you closer to your goals. We all have fears. We all have doubts that are part of our survival mechanism. They pop up as an internal voice that when we face risks or try something new. So real or imagined, the survival mechanism comes into play even when it no longer serves. But if you can learn supportive tools and techniques, you can silence that negative voice. So I strongly suggest that you develop a daily routine that allows you to check in with your plan. Has anything changed? Are you going to celebrate something? What positive thing happened that you're going to celebrate today? What one thing can I do today to move me forward? And how will I know it's right for me? How do I want to feel? What one thing will help me feel the way now? That way now, today. And what supports you so that you can enjoy everyday life while working out these plans? I really suggest that you center on and check in with your inner self. Get to know your inner self, because that's what links you to this quantum consciousness and the guidance you will be receiving. It is the portal. Your subconscious mind is the portal that takes you to this wealth of information. Get to know your inner self. If you're going to be spending a lot of time at home, take the time to get to know your inner self. Listen for this guidance. It's not with your ears most of the time, but with some inner knowing, some heart knowing of that's what I'm supposed to be doing now. Act on that and see how it takes you forward. Listen for corrections, adjust, be flexible, and keep taking actions. Keep putting your feet right in front of one another. That's my message for today. Keep on keeping on. Stay positive. Prepare what you need to prepare. But look at what you can enjoy. What would you prefer? And help to create what you would prefer at the same time that you're taking care of what has to be done right now. By next month, we can hope that we will be through with this trip of the coronavirus, that it will be fading away and we'll be restoring our lives again. So I want, while you have the time and you're thinking about it, work on that action plan. Keep that purpose in mind. Keep thinking about how you're going to get there. And then we'll talk about action plans next month. How are we organizing them? How are we prioritizing them to make the most progress? How are you feeling about it? Is there anything that's stopping you? Are you having any doubts and worries about it? we need to look at those if it's getting in the way of your action plan or actually taking action. If you've taken any actions, did you? What happened? Did you have to adjust your plans due to the unfolding circumstances around this virus scare? These are all questions that we can talk about next month, because we're moving forward. We don't want you to lose track of your goals and worry too much. We want you to stay calm, be well, be safe, and be connected to your higher power. Get to know your higher power right now. The call will be, once again, you can register at www.trainbrainclaimpower.com for the April call. That'll be April 18th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, just like this, on Zoom. And I look forward to seeing you then. I hope you have a great month. And please, take this opportunity to think about your thinking, to look at it, to change it, to make sure you flip your thinking to the positive. Think about how you're feeling, and make every effort to think about the positive affirmations, positive affirmations, centered prayer. Do your groundwork. Think about what steps need to be taken in order to achieve your goals. Lay them out. Start to create that action plan. There's a lot you can do, maybe even more than usual, because you have the opportunity now to be home, and if not home, to pull yourself away from the things that are disturbing you so that you can focus on this instead. So I wish you a very good month. I wish you the very best that March will go out like a lamb, and that it feels like it came in as a strange lion filled with fear. And I hope it goes out like a lamb so we can go into April, which is when we really, we're going into spring. It will be the time for flowers to be planted and for flowers to bloom. And it will be a beautiful time of year, and we'll be ready to step out into the world again in the beautiful spring days and enjoy everything that life has to offer. My very best to you this month. See you next time. Bye-bye. And thank you for coming.